Okay, so as you may know, Shakespeare produced several plays in his life. These are the earliest works that he produced, and well, we're going to see each of them in this presentation.
One of the first plays we're going to mention is Richard III. Now, in this play, it's basically about the War of Roses. This is between the House of Lancaster and the House of York. Richard III in this play kills several people, including two of his brothers and two of his nephews, and also his ex-wife, Lady Anne. And Richard III is killed by Richmond, who will later become Henry VII. And with the death of Richard, this ended the War of Roses because Richmond married young Elizabeth, and this marriage reunited the two roses together. Now, in the following, The Comedy of Errors, this is a play that is considered a farce because there are several repeated situations in this play where it can seem as impossible or crazy. And in this play, it's basically about characters being mixed up. Since there are two twins, the brothers, and the two slaves, which are also twins. So in this play, there is a mix up between each person. But basically, this was one of the plays that had wordplay and made it a comedy. Now, the following play, Titus Andronicus, this seems to be one of the play's most bloody and revengeous tragedy. In this play, there are several killing, and there's revenge, and there's hard and deep feelings. Titus kills two sons of Tamara, and she seeks revenge and tries to kill him, but he feeds Tamara her sons, and she doesn't even know it. And eventually, she also dies because he kills her. However, several men, well, in this case, Aaron, tried also to kill Titus for revenge. However, the sons of Tamara also violated and raped Titus' daughter, Leneva, and Aaron somehow also had this hurtful feeling towards Titus. So in this play, to sum this up, there is lots of blood scenes, and in this case, it can be chaotic scenes, and revenge is everywhere. Now, in The Taming of the Shrew, this play is considered also of a comedy because it's basically about a bet that is made between three gentlemen, and each one of them have their own wife. So they made a bet to see who had the most obedient wife. In this case, the gentleman who won was Petruchio because he married Katharina, which in this story seems to be a lady, a strong woman minded in this time. But at the end, we are proven that even though if a woman is strong minded, she will become eventually obedient as a wife. Now, in the play, The Two Gentlemen of Verona, in this play, it's focused on two friends who fight for the love of Sylvia. Even though one of them has a girlfriend, he still betrays his girlfriend Julia and his friend Valentine. However, Verona also disobeys her father into not marrying the duke that his father had picked for her. She disobeys him, and eventually her father accepts Valentine. Now, Julia, even though her boyfriend basically left her and wanted to go for another woman, she decides to forgive him and accept him once again because of her love towards him. So in this play, we can observe how love is portrayed as a young love, a love that takes risk and goes beyond friendships or faithfulness, or in this case, like a sort of type of love that is immature. Now, in the next play, Love Labor's Lost, in this play, there is also a type of ideal love. In this case, it's between four gentlemen, which one is a king and the rest are his friends, and a princess, which also happens to be joined with three friends. Now, in this play, um, the four men and the four women have feelings towards each other. So at the end of the play, their love will be tested. And by this, I mean that the woman will be gone for 1 year, and the men must remain loyal and patient until they come back.
Okay, so well, now just to recapitulate a little about the last play that my classmate was talking about, we can say as a summary that it is a play that talks about the pursuit of love and how language and communication is related to the pursuit of this. So next we have other plays, which are Richard II and Henry IV. Now, a comment that I would like to mention here is that Shakespeare's plays were categorized in three different categories. One of them was the history plays, the comedies, and also the tragedies. And these two plays that I'm going to mention now, they are considered history plays. History because they talk mainly about historical events, but they are related to politics also. So in Richard II, it talks about, of course, the King Richard II, and how this king was considered to be very clumsy in his reign, and he was considered also a very bad ruler for the country. So in this play, there is this discussion between the people on how fair it will be, on or how right it will be to get rid of this king, because at the end, a king is a king, and it is considered a very high position in the reign, of course. So it will be bad to attempt against a king, not only because you're attempting against his person, but also against God's rules. So there is this consideration and this disagreement on what to do. And then there is the play Henry IV, which also talks about the King Henry IV, which happened to had a very graceful youth, but at the end he transformed in this very honorable king that happened to rule between the middle of the English Civil War. So it talks about this transformation. And then it follows Henry V. Okay, and here in the play of Henry V, it is about how Henry, after he becomes a king, he's considering on ruling not only England but also France. And this happened between the times of the Hundred Years' War. That, if you didn't know, the Hundred Years' War was a conflict that was between France and England, and it actually lasted 160 years, but at the end they all resumed in 100 years. And then it was also Julius Caesar. In this play, you may think it is about the character itself, I mean Julius Caesar itself, but it talks more about the assassination of Julius Caesar, because he was assassinated, and it discusses what happens next, what happens after he is assassinated. This actually is one of the most discussed plays of Shakespeare in schools also. Okay, and then, well, I have mentioned the other plays as being history plays. And as I told you, there were three categories: history, comedy, and tragedy. And this one, A Midsummer Night's Dream, this will be a comedy. And this comedy talks about two couples. Well, not two couples, but two men and two women. And their names are Lysander, Demetrius, Hermia and Helena. And at the beginning, Lysander and Demetrius, they both are in love with Hermia, and Helena is in love with Demetrius. So, oh, and also Hermia is only in love with Lysander, not with Demetrius. So then, as the play follows, there appears a fairy, and this fairy is in charge of arranging the whole trouble that is in there. And he's supposed to make Demetrius fall in love with Helena, but at the end he commits a mistake, and he makes Lysander fall in love with Helena. So now the things are all turned the way around. Lysander is in love with Helena, and Hermia is in love with Lysander, and Helena is in love with Demetrius. So it's a whole mess. And then the fairy tries to fix this mistake, but at the end he only makes it worse, because he makes Demetrius fall in love with Helena too, and now the two of them are in love with Helena, and none of them loves Hermia, and it is a whole trouble. And there is a time in the play where everybody is miserable, but at the end, the problem gets fixed. The fairy is able to fix his mistakes, and then at the end, everybody's happy. Elena is with Demetrius, and Hermia is with Lysander. And here now, my classmate Alejandro will have something very interesting to say about this play.
Okay, yeah. So it was around 2012, and I started studying my preparatoria in CEDAR, Centro de Educación Artística y Humanidades. So we were supposed to play, actually, mold the play of Midsummer Night's Dream, but we were basically, most of the classroom were just males. So in my team, the team that had to present this play, we were all guys. So we don't have any girls. So in order to correct that, I actually interpret Hermia, and my friend Daniel Parra interpret Helena. So, well, moving on with this, as Ellie and Carmen already said, during the 1590s decade was one of the most prolific eras or periods of time in which Shakespeare developed many of his most known plays. One of these also was the Merchant of Venice, that was written between 1596 and 1597. And it basically is about this guy named Antonio, who is an anti-Semitic and takes a loan from a Jew person to help a friend to court a woman named Portia. So eventually, Antonio can repay the loan. So the Jew demands a pound of his flesh. Portia, the wife of Antonio's friend, dresses as a lawyer and actually saves Antonio. Moving on, then we have the play that is known as Much Ado About Nothing, that was written between 1598 and 1599, and it's a comedy about misunderstanding, love, and deception. Three men, Benedict, Claudio, and Don Pedro, arrive at Leonardo's house in Messina, Italy, and one of these men, Claudio, who is a soldier, fall in love with Leonardo's daughter. Her name is Hero. So the other play that we have is Twelfth Night, that was written also between 1599 and 16,000. Oh, 16,000, sorry. And it's about a young woman who disguises herself as a man. She becomes entangled with two local aristocrats. And actually, this play is quite revolutionary, as this play questions the conventions of romance and gender roles. This play is one of the most performed plays and made written, sorry, by Shakespeare, and well, it also has a huge legacy. After that, we have, probably for most of the readers and the critics, the best work of Shakespeare, Hamlet. This is the best Shakespeare play. It's a tragedy, and summarizing a lot of things, it is about ghost, sorry, of the King of Denmark, who tells his son Hamlet to avenge his murder by killing the new king, who is actually Hamlet's uncle. Hamlet's uncle, knowing this and fearing for his life, perform a plot to also kill Hamlet. After that, we have the Merry Wives of Windsor, that was written between 16,000 and 60,001. And well, this play actually have two plot lines. The funniest plot line is a conflict between John Falstaff and Mistress Ford and Mistress Page, who are the two merry wives. The other plot line, that it seems more romantic, is about three suitors whom wish to win Anne Page's hand in marriage.
I would like to say that we can see how many works Shakespeare did. Most of the times he maybe only remembered because for his most famous plays, which are Hamlet, for example, or Macbeth, it could be. But we can see that he has more plays, and they are also very recognized around the world. The clear example is that some of them are still performed nowadays, as for example what Alice was telling us in his school.
To add to what Carmen has said, Shakespeare had a great way of using his imagination. Since he was an actor and also a poet, we can see that he had a great imagination through his diversity of plays, either tragic or comedy or romance. In every play, it's his. We can see how his own touch, his unique touch of using words is. It's pretty great.
Yeah, so well, concluding with this, I think that Shakespeare is definitely one of the most influential authors in the history of literature, and it's highly probable that his legacy remain over the following centuries as a cultural heritage. His legacy is so huge.
So that was everything for our part, and thank you for your attention.